It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. You're live with Expresso. Let's get serious for a moment because we're going to talk about something that is, I think, vital for all of us to be aware of and talk about within ourselves. Although there is a lot of talk about the impact of stress, and 60% of visits to doctors today, 60% are related to stress. Not all stress is bad. So according to human potential and parenting expert and good friend of ours on the show, Nikki, who is the author of the new book, Future Proof Yourself, we need enough pressure and tension in our system to be able to perform effectively at work, at sports, or even in the classroom. We deal with it every day on this show. You need that little extra push. Nikki, a very good morning. Welcome. A very important topic to discuss because I think a lot of us are feeling stressed out.
We are. We always stress every single day. But Nikki, how are you this morning? Are you stressed?
No, I actually feel fantastic because I've just come back from a long weekend in the bush. And we talk about stress and tension. Yes,
Wow.
So that is the exact opposite of stress.
That's
being in the
exact
bush.
opposite. You are living your best life. But here's the thing. Like G said, stress is sometimes good for us. You sometimes say that it's so good for us because it helps keep you on edge. We stress every single day,
elevates,
5 minutes all the time. Should we then be aiming to create a life without stress? Would that work? Would it be good for us? Tell us.
Okay, so my analogy for life is that there is absolutely no perfect balance. And we need to aim for dynamic balance. So if you consider that life is like a seesaw, you're going to have ups and downs all the time. A seesaw is rarely in perfect balance. And so let's keep that front of mind and center, is that as long as the seesaw is moving up and down, you're okay. It's when the seesaw gets stuck up or stuck down that you have a problem. And right now, one of the issues that we have, of course, is this feeling of being stuck like in first gear. Remember when you were learning how to drive a manual car for the first time? And when you got stuck in first gear, or maybe those people who are listening who've got children who are in matric right now getting their driver's licenses know that.
You're going to stress people out. Please don't even bring it up.
Yeah, that grating feeling of being stuck in first gear, that's what you don't want. You want to be able to drop down your gears into cruise mode in between those intense high periods of performance. But it's not as easy as that. I get it. I really do. And I recently looked after my parents. Both of them were living with us while they were doing renovations to a house. And they were with us for 8 weeks. And for the last 3 weeks, both of them came down with COVID.
Oh, my
And so I was in first gear for a long time. Those 3 weeks of oxygen machines and oximeters and medicine and whatever. And the interesting thing was when they moved out and we moved them into their new home, I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to have the most amazing week of catching up with my life. And, you know, I felt awful. I felt terrible. I had what I call popped elastic band syndrome. And this is a classic for how we feel when there is no pressure and tension left in our system, that we actually have an inability to perform.
It's bizarre that you say that. I mean, I keep using, obviously, my own personal experience of my family being away for now 3 weeks, and I've entered the crazy phase of that. But I certainly do get that. Initially, I thought, I'm going to throw myself into all these things. It would take me like an hour to get out of bed in the morning because I was in that first gear. I just couldn't get out of it. But I'm one of those people that finds great motivation from the right kind of pressure. I think we all, those of us in this line of work, probably gravitate towards that. What is the difference between positive, good stress and negative stress, which can take its toll?
So there are two words, and we forget this. We think that all stress is bad. There is distress, which is the negative stress, and there is eustress, which is the positive stress. And if you think about an elastic band, so I've got an elastic band here, and I think you've got some elastic bands on your table.
I'm going to shoot Jamie? No, I won't shoot you. I promise I won't shoot you.
Okay, listen, this is not about shooting cats, you see. But if you consider, if you've got quite a loose elastic band, okay, so right now, this isn't fun. But if we double our elastic band over, it starts becoming a lot more fun when there's a little more pressure.
Now we've got the
And
tension.
if you actually sit and fiddle with an elastic band, you find that you knot it and you put it in and out of your fingers and you fiddle with it. The only way this becomes fun is when there's a bit of pressure or tension. And I love this as a visual metaphor and a very sort of tangible way of understanding pressure and tension. You need just enough in order to be effective and to perform. And I've got a wonderful story about a matriculant, because right now we've got matriculants. And in matric is a very interesting example of what happens when there's not enough pressure and tension in a system.
Okay, we're going to continue to expand on something that you mentioned, the popped elastic band analogy. I'm loving the fact that we've got elastic bands to play with. It's in itself a bit of a stress reliever. But I get what you're putting down completely, Nikki Bush. I think we exist in that space of dynamic tension. Yeah. We need a little bit, but too much can have a very damaging effect. In just a moment, we're going to continue our discussion with our parenting expert and our life coach. Miss Nikki Bush is sticking around right now, though. I think I'm stressed out. I need a cup of coffee.
Cup of coffee will do the trick. Yeah.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back, everybody. You're still live here on your Feel Good Breakfast Show. Now, earlier on in the show, we connected with human potential and parenting expert, a good friend of ours, Nikki Bush, to discuss getting the right amount of stress to promote inner growth. Now, not all stress is bad, she says, and Nikki is joining us again to tell us more. Nikki, are you still with us?
I am. Thanks, Jamie.
Just your presence is making me feel more relaxed. I'm glad that we're actually thinking about this, because it's a really interesting one. And I suppose we want to feel like ultimately we have control over the scenario. We don't want to feel like we are just a product of our environment, and i.e. the stress kind of affecting us in that way, but that we choose how we want the stress to affect us. But if we are, as you said, caught in that like pup, that gear one, and we just can't get out of that, and maybe we can return to your popped elastic band analogy, how do we unslump ourselves? How do we get out of that pup feeling?
Yeah, so there's a big difference between being caught in first gear, which is when you're in overwhelm and distress, and you're heading for burnout, and then not having enough pressure and tension in the system, and you feel like the elastic band is popped and you feel pop. So this matriculant that I was counseling, and the same happens to extreme sportsmen and people who are in companies where there's a lot of delivery and reporting, or a big project that's being launched. When you get to the end of the project, it's like, there's no more pressure and tension in the system. So this lovely story of this matriculant who came to see me because her marks dropped 20% in her prelims, and she was no longer in the running to get into the university course she wanted to do. And she'd actually been an extreme sportswoman and had gone off to the Junior World Olympic Rowing Championships just before prelims.
Wow.
So imagine, these matriculants who are in first rugby teams and who are maybe top ballerinas and spend time on the stage. They're busy 5, 6, 7 days a week. And then you're in a situation suddenly before matric exams, prelims or finals, where you don't have all of that pressure and tension that you're used to. You don't have the team to report to. You don't have the nutritionist, the coach, the fitness coach, the audience. And suddenly there's not enough pressure and tension in that system. So I had to sit with her, and I gave her this elastic band, and she worked out very quickly that she didn't have enough pressure and tension in her system. So she was swanning around watching TV and wasting time, which is why she wasn't studying, and there was not enough pressure and tension. We even added into her her weekly routine. In the middle of matric exam, she started coaching rhythmic gymnastics. She was doing ergo fitness sessions just by choice to add in pressure. So, we talk about having a list, a to-do list. When there's nothing to do, there's no pressure or tension, and we need that. I just had that for the weekend. 4 days of writing no lists was fantastic. But I do have a list for today already. I've got 20 things on my list. I know I won't do them all, but having a list that gives you some direction, some focus, and an expectation to achieve and finish certain things really does work. So we have to, and this is my success cube, we can discuss this another time, but your skills are important. Your work rate is important. So work rate is very much connected to getting the pressure and tension right. And of course, your attitude underpins everything.
I think the bottom line here we can take away is not all stress is bad. But of course, Nikki, where can our viewers find out more about how to build their resilience muscle, as you call it?
Yes, so building your resilience muscle is one of the sections of my new book, Future Proof Yourself. And you can get hold of that at nikkibush.com or in any good bookstore.
Nikki, thank you so much. I'm thinking about all those, I kind of see it as a frontier that you want to drive and push yourself towards, because that's what keeps pushing you forward, but in a balance. So I think the key here is I love the fact that we've looked at both sides of that spectrum. Too much, too little. Find a balance somewhere in between if you can. But I really am taking on board that a little bit of stress can actually really help to heighten our experience of life. Nikki, thank you so much. Some sage, brilliant advice. As always, we love connecting with you. Go and have a slightly stressful but unstressed kind of a day.
A good balance.